Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from YellowCat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and let's get started. Employees, how did you fire your bosses? Part 7. I managed to fire the second in command. She would give anyone in my department of the company a hard time. She said she knew how the place was run. She didn't. Now let's tell a story. She asked me to get ready for the rush at 6 o'clock. The time was 2:30 in the afternoon. We had some quiet time together while I stocked the back room, so I told her I would take care of it. She began bugging me at 4 or so to get ready for the rush, and since she had been pressuring my colleague to put her till away, I snapped back at her, telling her I would finish in 10 minutes. A mistake, considering we only have 2 microwaves and it takes 7 minutes to prepare the cheese and gravy, among other things. It's obvious that it took more than 10 minutes. Look, the victor has arrived to bask in the limelight. In addition, she made the decision to take this stuff's temperature. Okay, so it's still getting warm. She threw it out right away after screaming at me that it was all too cold. I almost lost my temper. I don't think punching a man who's 4 feet 10 would look good on my resume. To get some fresh air, I headed to the spacious storage area. When I return, the idiot has replaced the plastic containers in the steam table, we should only be using metal ones, with plastic ones. Since, plastic liquefies. I pull it out quickly and pour the gravy into a metal pot while disposing of the plastic in the sink. She's yelling at my coworker for using my till when I get to the front. I proceed and inquire as to what the problem is. Since she had been told to pack up her till for the day, I told her she could use mine. She screamed at me once more. Felt like I was pulsating. When a different manager saw, he or she pulled me aside briefly and took me upstairs where customers aren't allowed. Without delay, I started to cry. I had sobered up enough to go back to my area after cleaning incoherently for probably 30 minutes. While I was away, there was a shift change, so my coworker was different this time. My colleague informs me that she refilled the steam table with plastic during the 30 minutes I was away. I don't think it would be too expensive to replace the steam table. This coworker had also been the target of her harassment. We're now getting close to the end of my shift. About 5:30, things are getting crowded. We're not prepared because some idiot threw away everything we had. I sigh and turn in my 2 weeks for the following shift. Later, I found out from my colleagues that she was let go primarily as a result of the proof I provided to the manager who moved me upstairs. HR had a blast with that one. Not necessarily fired, but we basically made him quit out of rage and anger at us all. He was employed by the retail store where I work as a weekend shift manager. Though it wasn't the highest position, he felt superior to the senior managers in some way. From the beginning, he was very clear in expressing his displeasure with the way we dealt with customers and collaborated with one another rather than offering support or being friendly. I recall once reporting for duty with over 30 of my coworkers, and as soon as we got to the shop floor, he started fighting with us in front of the customers, complaining that we were all a minute late and that it would appear on our records, etc. There used to be absolutely no way to avoid getting yelled at by him because he would constantly break the rules for customers and confront us for doing so. I could go on forever, but I'll get right to the point. Since everyone on my weekend team is a student between the ages of 16 and 25, we're all fairly close friends and we all shared the experiences he had given us. Though we did as he asked out of respect, none of us were particularly afraid of him because he lacked the authority and power to fire us or make notes about us in our files. When he asked us to do something, we all came up with a plan to just ignore him and act out, kinda like a class acts against a teacher they don't like. We began work the next weekend, essentially doing the exact opposite of what he had asked us to do. He was really angry. Customers startledly watched him start to yell at us in the middle of the store, and they complained to the manager. We continued doing this for a few weeks until he finally realized that he was unable to keep us under control. In addition, the manager's desk was overflowing with customer complaints, and head office was calling to report a decline in numbers. He was essentially confronted by the store manager, who told him he had the managerial abilities of a carrot for the way he had treated us. Then, while we laughed and made fun of him, he stormed out of the store looking as angry as ever. He did not return. I should also add that the senior managers knew how he handled us and that they reportedly had stern conversations with him in the past, which he obviously disregarded, so we all got away with it. I was unaware that my boss was a total nightmare when I was hired for my current position. She was like a greatest hits collection of everything bad managers do. She would tell lies to protect herself, talk trash about other team members to us in an attempt to make us hate them, and do other such things. Additionally, she completely misrepresented her credentials and was unable to perform any of the tasks that she should have been able to do, which meant that every project she worked on took 10 times longer and produced worse results. She was not permitted to work on any projects for people outside of our department who flatly refused to collaborate with her. However, our department's entire staff was so proficient at what we did and filling in for her that it appeared to everyone that everything was going well. She finally told a coworker that she thought it was time to fire me and replace me because I had disagreed with her very professionally on something and turned out to be correct less than a year after I had started. After learning that, I simply went to our COO, who is in charge of our department, and explained the situation. I didn't want to give him any kind of ultimatum or anything, but I couldn't work on a team where I had to worry about losing my job every time I disagreed with my boss in a polite and normal manner. He was appalled and spent the next few days speaking with each member of my team on a one-on-one basis. It was in the latter part of the week. Monday came and went as usual the following week. On Tuesday, while I was working at my desk, she abruptly tapped me on the shoulder and informed me that she had been fired. I just said, "Wow, sorry, good luck with everything," because I was so shocked. It was crazy and unanticipated, but I appreciated how quickly they responded. Our team has been fantastic ever since, and we no longer have anyone outside of our department who won't collaborate with us. Residents of a terrible HOA or those who have terrible neighbors, share your stories, Part 7. Not a homeowners association HOA, but a colony association. My neighborhood has a lot of weird Native American undertones, made even stranger by the fact that the colony is the main governing body. White folks are strange. Little history. There are lakes here, and canoe and beach tags are needed. 2 of my younger black brothers are here. They've been taken in. My parents are in a different town from me. My younger brother is officially a resident of this community and lives in my house. His name can be found on the beach tag because he has many friends here. Officially speaking, though, his name sounds, well, whiter than his skin tone suggests. He's approached by a colony official who patrols the beach because they're retired, elderly, and idle during the summer. The colony official singles him out in front of all of his white friends and demands to see his beach tag. She requests identification upon seeing the name to ensure accuracy. The 13-year-old, who has no identification, argues rationally that this is crazy, and he and his friends jump back into the lake. The lady loses it, declaring, "This kind of vandalism is illegal. I'm calling the cops at them." They all made the decision, therefore, to avoid getting involved with the local police department. The township really is the neighborhood's boundaries. 9 officers operate a Humvee and 5 Ford Explorers. A few days later, residents were warned about an influx of undesirable teenage vandals on our beaches in the weekly pamphlet issued by the colony office. Keep an eye out for anyone who seems out of place and report them to the authorities right away if you see them entering the beach areas. Be advised that these vandals are suspected of stealing beach tags from homeowners' residences. My brother was identified on my contract. I wrote a letter to the colony office in response explaining the situation with a little less salt than I'm giving it here and stating that I will not be paying my annual dues until they show me who the self-described colony official was who harassed my brother, formally retracted their claim that vandals were stealing beach tags, and specifically apologized for using the term undesirables. I haven't made any payments in the past 2 years. I keep receiving letters informing me that my unpaid dues are preventing me from joining the colony, and I keep responding with the same letter. I frequently visit beaches, and the tag checkers are always asking for my tags. When I tell them my story, they occasionally leave me alone or ask me to leave, but amazingly, they've never threatened to call the police. My children go to a public Chinese immersion magnet school that is surrounded by military housing and lacks parking spaces because it was established there first. Lincoln Military Housing, LHS, a business that functions as an HOA on steroids, is in charge of managing all of the military housing in the area. This fall, LHS posted large red signs with the words "Private property, no parking, violators will be towed" all over the campus before classes started. The street the school is on is a city street, but it turns out that 2 of the surrounding cul-de-sacs are private property. Additionally, the signs have no legal enforceability because they lack gates and parking permits. After a protracted email exchange in which I exposed her lying several times, thanks in large part to Google Street View, I learned that the LHS district manager was merely trying to see if she could get away with prohibiting parking on a public street. The military people who live on the city street, however, are unaware of that. All they see is a sign prohibiting visitors from parking. As a result, they completely lose it when parents must park their cars and walk their children to preschool and kindergarten, such as yelling in the streets, hosing people down, etc. The residents are mostly stay-at-home mothers whose husbands are deployed. As a result, they already suffer from the military wife entitlement syndrome. Yes, it exists, and stress and annoyance are part of their everyday lives. They get really angry when they see a group of people parking illegally, which isn't really the case, in front of their adorable military homes on a daily basis for a commie school that their children are unable to attend. Since it's been getting worse for 6 months, the police force is now required to send a unit there every morning to prevent fights from breaking out between the mothers who live there and the mothers who drop off their children. When I asked the officer there why the police didn't just tell the property manager to take down the signs, he replied that they'd tried, but she refused, and since the signs were on private property, they couldn't legally force her to comply. We looked at houses for a long time before settling on one that we both liked, a miracle, I tell you. The little neighborhood our house was in was already established, but behind and immediately beside it was a neighborhood of newly constructed homes. The same construction firm and agencies were involved. However, the first neighborhood was finished 5 to 7 years earlier. The older neighborhood had no homeowners association, but the entire newly constructed community would, thus far. We visited the house at various times to conduct due diligence on it and to get a sense of the neighborhood, as well as conversing with the neighbors. During our conversation with the man who would be our next-door neighbor during one of those visits, we learned that the builders were attempting to impose their HOA on this neighborhood. Though their efforts were not very successful, they persisted. After speaking with our realtor, who verified there was no HOA in place, we proceeded with the purchase and ultimately came to an agreement on a price and settlement date. Let's say my husband has a tendency to be detail-oriented. Sounds far more pleasant than anal, and I'm usually really appreciative of it, because before signing, that man had read every single page. Every one. Thus, he discovered the addition to one of the documents that, if my memory serves me correctly, would have subjected our house to rules and bylaws placed by community agencies to be determined. The other realtor either missed it or chose not to pursue it at the time, and it was required to be signed. I didn't sign or initial that page. I can't be positive because he was a fool. Throughout the process, additional pages were produced, and it became evident that the builder, or whoever their identity was, wanted both neighborhoods to function as one contended little family under the HOA. Thus, as the older homes were being sold, they were incorporating them into it. I firmly refuse to live in a homeowners association. I don't think anyone can be trusted, not even the so-called good ones. We therefore faxed some of the pages to our lawyer. As I mentioned, it was a long time ago. After reading it, he and our realtor decided it was a little too near. We offered the other realtor 3 options. Either we send them the entire contract to lawyers for review, as long as it took, we would ensure it took a long time holding up his clients and creating a lot of noise in the neighborhood, or they remove any reference to anything akin to a homeowners association from the paperwork and we continue or we walk. Recall that this occurred long before the housing crisis. We were prepared to pay a little more than the asking price, even though the house was beautiful and had been on the market for months. There was no bidding war. In our view, that offer was legitimate because we were receiving the things we desired. Take out the paperwork or let his clients down. He argued, we didn't budge, he made phone calls, we went to lunch. Upon our return, we completed the paperwork, removing any reference to anything akin to a homeowners association. The longest settlement I've ever been in, for sure. They did get houses in our neighborhood moved over to their HOA prior to our move. Since it's been a while, I might even have them all now. Not, however, ours. And every time we received a notice or visit informing us that our house was out of compliance, my petty Patty's heart leaped with delight. I adored seeing the arrogant twerp's expression crumble upon realizing she had no control over us. Oh, those were the good old days. If you want to watch the part 6, click the link here. We're very, very glad to see you all in the comments again. Many thanks for your support.